In the next inquiry question, we look at the types of evidence that have been used in some investigations in the past, and how sometimes the evidence and the conclusions aren't necessarily with each other. There's more correlation rather than a causative effect. The first one here is a historical one from early in the 20th century, known as the Hawthorne effect. And it boils down to, if someone knows they're being observed, they change their behaviour. And so you can look at the example there. If there's a teacher in the class, most of the time the students will be doing what they are on the left. As soon as that teacher leaves the room, they're probably doing what's on the right. And this all comes about from a large industrial complex. So we've got there in Illinois in the United States, so in the 1920s, and they brought in a whole heap of people to assess the productivity of their workers. And so what they tried to do is they tried a whole heap of different methods. As this little Wikipedia extract says here, they changed times of workers, whether they changed a whole heap of little things there. However, the people involved knew that they were being observed, and also the fact that they were doing a whole range of different things was a sort of a bit of a bias on the people's behaviour. And so essentially the people knew they were being observed, so they worked harder. And once the observations had been taken away, they went back. So it wasn't the changes that was causing the change in behaviour. So it wasn't changing breaks, wasn't changing work patterns or anything like that. It was the mere fact that people were being observed. Another one comes from 1991, and it's this study that linked hormone replacement therapy to coronary disease. And so what there was a thing here where they were looking at the fact that hormone replacement therapy was potentially showing a link with coronary heart disease. Similar to the Hawthorne effect, though, all the studies took out the fact that there was little evidence for there being a link. And once you took out socioeconomic status and the fact that a lot of the women who were taking the drugs and taking all that there, generally lived healthier lifestyles. And so when that was taken into account, there was no benefit, there was no evidence for a protective effect. And as I said there, the people who could afford the hormone replacement drugs tended to be a little bit more well off, tended to live healthier lifestyles. The final one here is another well-known effect from the 90s, which is called the Mozart effect. And it was a study that claimed that if students listen to Mozart, listen to the music of Mozart, they seem to have a boost in their IQ tests. And so IQ tests being a relatively common intelligence test. And so the idea was that the study promoted the idea that, listening to Mozart makes you smarter. It makes you more intelligent. Now, of course, as in a lot of these studies, there was no follow-up study was able to repeat the results exactly. And a lot of follow-up studies then looked at different things. So, people who listened, essentially in the end, it boiled down to if people were listening to music they enjoyed, they were going to concentrate better. If people, and that does not even necessarily music, people would listen to spoken word stuff there. If there was something they enjoyed, they tend to perform better in those diagnostic tests. And eventually even the original author recanted his statement.